Hi, welcome back to my channel. It is Sam. Well, this is not a fun video. So despite having all of these beautiful, healthy, nice looking plants, I would say I'm able to take care of fairly well. There are this select few that I have that I find to be more difficult and that I'm not super successful at growing. With that being said, good evening. Let's get cozy. I'm in my cozy clothes. I have a blanket, cover up my legs. We're just gonna kind of sit and hang out in the floor of my plant room while we look at and discuss plants that I'm struggling with or that I find to be more difficult than they maybe should be. Let's get right on into it. You guys haven't seen this plant in a long time. I am sure of it. This philodendron is referred to as the largest philodendron in the world because apparently it's the largest philodendron in the world. Obviously not right now, but in the wild, in its natural habitat, growing conditions, these get insane, okay? The largest in the world out of all the philodendrons, apparently. It was just a really interesting fact. So despite that fact, I bought this as a little tiny starter plant. Like the leaves are like this long. I have an unboxing somewhere on my channel. I've had it for a few years now. It's definitely not the easiest philodendron in the world, I'll tell you that. Though it definitely has sized up for me and it's grown for me, it's been a dang struggle. So this has been living on the top shelf back here under this Mars Hydro. It gets excellent lighting, absolutely like superb lighting. And right next to this humidifier, I have this random trellis in here. Like obviously it's not a fit, it's not an appropriate fit, but just to kind of stake it up because he was unstable, okay? I don't know what it is. I've struggled. This plant has always been slow growing and it never puts off too many leaves, like a couple a year at this point. Now each leaf that it's given me has sized up quite a lot, so I'll give it that. And the foliage is gorgeous. I mean, it's gorgeous in my book. It gave me this leaf. All the previous leaves are clearly gone. And then most recently it gave me this one, but even that was a couple of months ago. We do have a growth point there, but it's honestly hard to tell how long that's going to take to come in. And if you can see this little yellow petiole right here, I just recently, there's like gunk on it, plucked off. There was a new leaf that, well, a growth point, it started to unfurl and it just turned black and it was dead. So I removed it. He's got a bunch of sap on him. Ooh. I removed it and there was already another growth point here in its place. So I don't know what happened there. It has struggled with spider mites, as have literally all of my plants. But it doesn't have spider mites right now. I've been treating really well. And yeah, I'm just kind of at a loss with this one. It's beautiful. I mean, look at that. The shape of it is really nice. It's almost like an arrowhead shape. And then the veins, it's beautiful. These leaves are really gorgeous when they first come in, like that deep reddish purple color with the veins, really nice. But it just hasn't done well for me. I know for a fact that, well, I was gonna say it's not root bound, but I actually do see a root coming out the bottom. It shouldn't be root bound, but I love this planter. Isn't it cute with a little saucer tray? Seriously adorable. I underwater it a bit, I suppose, the thicker leaf plant. So it should be able to withstand underwatering here and there, and even pests. Like it should be more pest resistant. I don't know why it doesn't grow well for me. At this point, this plant should be a lot larger. It should have a lot more foliage than it does. I've just found it to be a really difficult, stagnant plant. But I might move it. I think I'm gonna move it for sure because, come on, man. Come on, there's so much potential here. This one's also disheartening. This is kind of new. I've had it for a few months now and I love it. Okay, keep that in mind. I love most of these plants. Like there's none of these plants that I'm gonna be like, oh, I don't like this plant. I hate it. I don't want it anymore. Like I love all of them, and that's kind of like the thing. I want them and I want them to do well, but they're just not, despite that. This is my Peperomia elongata. Yeah, love it. And it has been growing super fast, super well, you could say. I wouldn't say super fast, but it's been growing relatively quickly and, well. So the first couple leaves it gave me, I noticed, were like this, curled and distorted, right? And I'm like, okay, well, it shipped. No big deal. It was in the mail. It probably has something to do with that, I'm sure. It's continued growing. It has lived in my kitchen the whole time. So I've been kind of experimenting with water. This is a very thick leaf peperomia. It is very succulent. And so I definitely didn't want to overwater it. I put it in this porous planter in a really chunky mix. The leaves do get really thin and like soft, kind of like a Hoya whenever it's thirsty. So that's when I know when to water. But I've kept up with the watering. So I know it's not an underwatering issue, and I definitely haven't overwatered. So it's not an overwatering issue. So it's not a watering issue, okay? And I fertilize my plants really, really regularly, like probably more than I should. But I use really gentle or natural fertilizers. So, it's not a nutrient deficiency. It gets plenty of light. I genuinely am at a loss. I don't know what's going on. All of the leaves that it has given me, every single one of them are curly and disfigured. There's the newest on this. There's a couple different growth points on it. Look at that new leaf. I thought it was going to be normal, and then nope. A couple days later, curled right up. This plant has, again, so much potential. You're going to hear me say that about a lot of these because I love them. I really, really appreciate these super large leaves. This is a leaf that it had when it was shipped to me. I don't know, it's really odd. Look at this one. But I'm just like, what the heck, man? Because I got it, obviously, for the super large foliage. It looks like tortellini or something. This is not what I had in mind when I purchased the plant. So I'm just, yeah, like I said, at a loss. I have been experimenting and trying different things. Nothing seems to work. I don't know. So if anyone has any advice for the Peperomia elongata, please let me know because I really want it to straighten up. I'm struggling with it. It's growing. It's not losing leaves. It's doing fine otherwise. It's just, honestly, it kind of gives them character. I mean, but I want this, okay? That's what I want. Anthurium Crystal Hope. This had multiple leaves when I got it. And it was very beautiful. I've been struggling with it ever since. It just immediately started to lose leaves. It lost every leaf that it had, and it was just this little nub. And so I really thought that I had lost it. I thought that it was gone. I kept it, and I kept it in my cabinet because I seen a little tiny like something going on this chunk. And there's another something right here beside it. So hopefully it'll be okay. And then boom, it just opened up this teeny tiny little leaf. Like, look at that little guy. It's so cute. So I'm like, okay, he doesn't want to give up just yet. He's still got some dog left in him, some fight left in him. So I'm gonna keep him, and we're gonna try to get this figured out. It has another leaf it looks like coming in there, so stay tuned. I'll do updates on it. But the Anthurium Crystal Hope has just been a struggle, and I tried multiple different things. I was really trying to keep up with the watering, and I was just kind of like tending to it and taking care of it, trying to stop and prevent any more leaves from dying because they were going quite rapidly. It wasn't growing, and then it's like nothing I did worked. So maybe I need to move it out of the cabinet. Perhaps maybe it doesn't like all that light. I really don't know what the issue is, but I just feel like this is a more difficult type of Anthurium. This one, I do want it to survive and I want it to thrive and I want to keep it, but I also would not purchase another one if I end up losing it. So, because it's just proved to be a little bit more difficult than my skill set. So, Crystal Hope. A little finicky guy. The Monstera subpinnata has been on a journey with me. It's finally doing okay. I will say that, but we will see what the future holds. I'm not going to cross my fingers just yet because it's been a struggle. I mean, it just has. I found it to be more difficult than most other monsters that I've grown. I don't know what it is. I assume this would be a really easy plant. I was proven wrong. So I struggled with it ever since I got it. I don't really think it ever put off any new leaves for me. And then until recently. And then the plant was like dying back. I think the roots died and I ended up cutting it. I think it was just a stick. It didn't even have any leaves on it. I thought it was gone, but I went ahead and threw it in a jar of water, propagation vessel, and I left it for literally probably 6 months, you guys. And it took a really long time to root, but it finally rooted. It put off a leaf. And I was like, wow, okay. And I really liked the way the new leaf looked. I'm like, that looks really cool. I love it. I'm so glad that it's kind of like making a comeback. Just like a couple months ago, maybe, it was getting ready to push out another new leaf, which I think was this one. Wait, which one is the newest here? Yeah, it was this one. And so I went ahead and took it out. It had its root system was established finally. I put it in this little pottery guy from 1991, handmade, love it. This was passed down to me along with a bunch of other pottery for my family, which is pretty neat. But I potted it in here and it's living over there under grow light. Lost the other leaf that it had. It kept this one and then it just, over the last couple weeks, unfurled this brand new leaf. So that's a good sign. I'm really happy about it. I'm really excited and I'm really hopeful that it's finally like gonna be okay and grow and like become established because I do love it. I want it to thrive for me. So send this guy all your best wishes as well as me because I want to have this plant. I don't want anything to happen to it, but up until this point I have struggled with it. I found it to be more difficult than I expected. That is for certain. I've had this plant for quite a few years. Also, it is the variegated Hoya kerrii. Now, this is one that I don't love, and I honestly haven't really loved it since I've had it. Jason picked this up for me in like Maryland or somewhere when he was working out of state. It's looked the same for many, many months with just these two leaves. It has attempted, if you can see all these little places on it, to put off numerous leaves numerous times and it kills them off like instantly. They never make it. They just fall right off. And so this is what I've been stuck with. I feel like I'm going to get rid of this plant. I find someone to give it to. I'm probably going to go ahead and rehome it because I don't care for it. I don't want it. I don't really care for any of the kerrii. I used to love them. I had some really beautiful green kerrii I ended up selling and gifting one, selling the other. This is obviously the outer variegated kerrii. It's just been, along with the green ones, been very slow growing, always killing off leaves. Looks just not that great a lot of the time. You can see these leaves are pretty scarred up and just, it's not that cute. You would think for a plant that the leaves are literal chubby hearts, and then you add in variegation, two things that I adore, that I would love the plant, but I don't, and it doesn't seem to love me, and it's looked this way for so long. I'm just tired of looking at it, to be honest with you. So somebody take it, please. I find all the kerrii to be quite stubborn and just they don't grow that well, in my opinion. And just the way that the stem kind of like grows and the way the leaves come in on it, I don't find it that appealing. And the leaves are really heavy, so after you get so many, it like weights the stem down and it's just not the vibe. It's not the vibe for me. So yeah, this one has me confused, like very, very confused. This is my variegated Monstera standleyana. I had the most gorgeous, amazing variegated standleyana 4 or 5 years ago. And it was beautiful. It grew so nice and so well and quickly. And the variegation on it was honestly one of the nicest variegated standleyanas I've ever seen. Like it had really, really great variegation, really good genetics. And I was dumb. Like back when I was selling plants a lot, like often I sold the whole plant and I Didn't even want to do it. I don't know why I did it, but I regretted it immediately after I did it. I wanted to back out of that sale so bad, but I didn't want to be a POS seller, so I didn't. That one hurt. I remember packaging that plant up and shipping it out hurt because there was no sense in it. Like, I don't know. I loved it. I don't know why I did it. Regretted it ever since. I ended up picking this up, I don't know when, a couple years ago. I really don't. I don't know when, because they become more common. They're in, big box stores and stuff. And it was really nice for a while, and then it quickly started to decline. And it's like I couldn't water it enough. No matter how much I watered it, it just was not happy. It was constantly, because this is a very vocal plant, if you can't tell. It will let you know when it's thirsty. It will yellow leaves and like curl them like this. When the leaves are curled, it's thirsty. And it's like no matter how much I watered it, it was always thirsty. So I moved it, and granted, this planter is a porous planter, and it is in an aerated mix, but it has no drainage. And I know the planter looks rough. Look over that. It was cute at one time, okay? It has no drainage. So I moved it to a larger planter with no drainage, and I even moved it. It was getting bright light. I've moved it into my living room where it's just getting like not bright, indirect light, and it's still drying out every other day. And I don't want to water it every other day. It's a thick leaf plant. It's a Monstera. It's one that should be able to tolerate underwatering, but it just is thirsty all the time. No matter how many times I water it, no matter what type of lighting I give it, it's always got the curled leaves, and it's just getting worse. It's killing off growth points at this point. And so I'm just at a loss. I'm like, why? I don't get it. And this one isn't nearly as beautiful as my OG. The variegation is nothing compared to my original one. Yeah, it's just really bizarre because it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. All I know is I don't know. After this, I don't think I will buy another one. The Philodendron Luxurians, I'm obsessed with this plant. This is my second one. The first one died immediately after I got it. Immediately. And I tried to save the chunk. I tried to save anything I could, and all of it just died. It would not do anything. This one was finally looking good. I've struggled with it as well, and in having more than like 2 leaves at a time on it, and it killing leaves off and crisping them up. But it was finally doing good, and I was at like 3 leaves, I think. And before it could give me another leaf, all 3 of those leaves just like crisped, yellowed, and died all at the same time very recently. And I'm just like, what? So I find the Philodendron Luxurians to be really difficult. It's so gorgeous. This is my last ditch attempt to save this plant, and if it dies, I will not repurchase it. I will just stick with my El Chaco and be happy with that, because it's too much stress. Because it's such a beautiful plant, to watch it wither away, it really hurts. It does things to me, bad things to me, okay? So we're left with this growth point, and it looked good a week ago. That growth point looked good. And I was like, so help me, if that growth point dies, like I'm going to be so upset. So I moved it from where it was living, because clearly it wasn't happy. And I moved it in my grow tent, or in my grow cabinet. And now I pull it out, and I notice that the tip of this growth point is dying. That's what's happening. It's dying. I'm just so over it, because look how juicy and nice that growth point was. Like, you just know there was a gorgeous, big, fat, juicy leaf in this growth point. And look what it's doing. This hurts me. Okay, it hurts me. This was a plant that I just was so over the moon about and wanting for so long, and it's just been such a disappointment. So yeah, I'm not going to put myself through the heartbreak of, again, if this one goes, which it looks like it is. And this is what happened with my last one. It just, once those leaves dropped, there was no saving it. There was nothing I could do. I find the Philodendron Luxurians to be insanely difficult, and just like a tease. It's a tease. So let me know if any of you guys have also struggled with the Philodendron Luxurians. I'm done with it. It's just, I can't even talk about it anymore because it makes me upset. This plant right here, I did not expect it to be this way, okay? Hold on, I gotta look up the name because I don't even remember it. I don't know how to pronounce it either, so good luck. I don't know. It starts with a D. Dolichostachyum. I don't know. I'll put it on the screen. It's an Anthurium. I just looked. I've had this for a year now. I got this in August of last year. Can I just say, I gotta get it out of this pot because I love this planter. And as soon as I got this planter, this plant went in it. And plant has not done this pot justice, and I'm ready to put a plant in here that deserves it. That deserves it. So I can really admire both the plant and the pot and the planter. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I had never heard of this plant whenever I purchased it. I just seen it and I thought it was beautiful, and it was $27 on Etsy. If you look up the plant, they're beautiful, super elongated leaves, and I'm like, oh my gosh, $27, Anthurium. It's clearly gorgeous. Like, yes, come here, come on. And I just did not expect this. So this is another one I'm going to be moving, try it out somewhere else, see if that helps, because it does appear to be trying. Oh nope, I lied. It was trying to put off a new leaf, and see, that's what happens. That's what happens every time it tries to put off a new leaf. I'm over it. Yeah, I had never heard of it. Can't even pronounce it. Never heard it pronounced. I tried to look it up to find the pronunciation when I bought it, and I couldn't find anything about it. So it's put off maybe 2 leaves in the year that I've had it. This was the last leaf 6 months ago, 8 months ago. I couldn't tell you. And I mean, look at it. It doesn't look good. It came in all ripped and torn. And now it's turning yellow, and I still have no other leaves. It's just whatever this guy is, it is very, very hard. Very difficult. I keep up with the watering on this one. I keep up with the pest treatments for the spider mites, and because I know I don't have a choice, like it's gonna die if I don't, basically. It's almost there at this point. It's been half dead for a very long time. It's never done well, ever. Honestly, I'm over this one. I am over this one. I would love for it to get together. I'm gonna move it, like I said. I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna give it another shot, and if nothing happens, I'm gonna give it a time frame. I don't know how long yet, but if nothing happens, out the door, and I will not purchase it again. And I will not purchase any other Anthuriums that I've never heard of and can't find any information on again. But it makes sense why it was under $30, right? The plant prices are low, but they weren't that low back then. And even for an Anthurium, they hold value pretty good. So that should have been a hint that it's a hard plant, that cheap price. And it was gorgeous when I unboxed it. Like, it had multiple leaves and stuff, but that just was so short-lived. Anyway, if you have this plant or you've heard of this plant, please drop some knowledge in the comments, because I am just like, no idea who it is, no idea what it is, don't know if it's a hybrid, don't know anything about it. If you have any care tips, please, because this thing has just been so stressful on me since I've had it. Honestly, it's just stressed me out. Like I said, I'm so ready to use this pot. It's still a new pot to me. This is the first plant I ever put in it. I haven't got to enjoy it. Unfortunately, Philodendron joepii. Now, if you remember, after I got this, like the months that followed, and it's got ants in it, I'm having this issue with ants in my plants. Like literally coming in and moving their colonies and stuff into the soil, the medium of my plants. It's an issue. This joepii, I got this for like $27 too. It was a great deal. And it did so good forever. It just started doing bad a couple of months ago. So good. It was growing insanely quickly. The leaves were sizing up, which it was big when I bought it, but they were getting huge. It was so full. It was just absolutely stunning. I was over the moon with this plant. Like, I was so happy. I got it for such a good price. So I did change the situation. I'll tell you what I think the issue was. Over the last few months, over the summer, basically, it stopped growing and it started to kill off all of its leaves. It's lost so many because it was so big and full. This was the last newest leaf, and it's been a few months since it even gave me that. Ooh, these ants have got to go. Also, let me know if you know what to do about ants in your plants. I took my big billow tie into the shower and I drowned them hoes, okay? Drowned them, and I killed so many. There was literally thousands coming out. I shit you not. And I killed a bunch of them. I flooded it as much as I could flood it without like too much, and they just, a couple days later, they're back. It was in moss, so it was shipped to me in moss. I kept it in moss. And so it was drying out super quick. Like you water it, it's dry the next day type shit. And I should have moved it out sooner, but I didn't. And I think that's where my issues arose. So I did repot it just a couple of weeks ago, and there is a growth point right there. So I'm really, really hopeful and just like crossing my fingers. And since I repotted it into a bigger pot, but also into soil, that it's gonna like get back on track. It has been struggling. This isn't one that I would necessarily say like some of the other ones that I find to be just like really difficult or hard. It's just one that I'm struggling with really bad right now, and was really disappointing to me because of how phenomenal it did in my care. It was like on my favorites list and favorites videos, and it was just like, it had me blown away. So it's just been like a big letdown watching it go from that to this. But my joepii, yeah, if you go back and look, I mean, it's just like the difference is really upsetting. I'm really struggling with it right now. Hopefully that won't be the case in a couple of months. I'm hoping, so hoping that I fix the issue with the repotting situation, but we shall see. There's one more I want to talk about. One more, and then we're done. And this is my Hoya caudata sumatra, and it did good for a good while. It was doing good. I've had this one a few years. It did well, but it's never done like exceptionally well, It's never like blown me away, but I do love it, and I always have loved it. This was a wish list plant for a long time before I ever finally got it, because I was able to get it from Gabriella Plants for a decent price for a hanging basket. It was small, but still a hanging basket nonetheless. I'm not into the little Hoya cuttings. No, girl. But I have really been struggling with it, like especially this summer. I don't think I've quite got it figured out, even though I've had it all this time. So it was drying out way too fast. I'm not an overwater so much anymore as I am an underwater. So I tend to move things that I'm struggling to keep up watering with into pottery and planters that don't have drainage, just to kind of like buy me some time with the watering, honestly. And it typically works pretty well, but with this one, I moved it to this, which I thrifted, and it has no drainage, and I'm keeping up with the water. Now, it has always gotten really bright light, so it's under close to a really bright grow light. And so I understand like that's going to make it dry out more, but I don't know, I just assumed that it wants brighter light. So maybe with all of these, honestly, I'm probably just going to switch them all around and like try that. But look at it. This is what's constantly happening, and then it'll shoot off like a new vine eventually, and it'll start to grow. You can see right here, and put off leaves, and then this happens where it dries out the entire vine, including the new leaves. It was doing good for a couple of months, and it gave me quite a few new leaves. And then, yeah, all of a sudden we're back to square one where it's doing this funky stuff again. But this one, again, I love this plant. This is just like such a unique plant, such a unique Hoya. I love the leaf shape. It's not a great representation of the plant right now because it doesn't look good, but these moldy, like rigid, just crazy hairy, they have like little hairs on them, leaves. It's so good. It's so cool. And the sun stressing that happens on this, specifically with the new leaves, it's really, really cool. I love it. Maybe my soil mix is too airy for some of these plants, but I've never had an issue with it in the past. Just like I used to overwater and rot so many plants, I just have got accustomed to using a super chunky aerated soil mix for all of my plants because I would rather underwater than overwater, but at the same time, it seems to be causing pretty significant issues with some of my plants. So I'm gonna have to figure it out and change it up. I think I'm gonna put this one in less light. I'm gonna move it away from that grow light and see. Maybe it wants more indirect light. Maybe it doesn't want direct light. But I just feel like that would take away the beautiful red coloration, that dark, deep red coloration. So I don't know. If you have any tips on this one as well, or any of them for that matter, please do let me know. Like I'm desperate for tips and literally anyone else's input that has experience with any of these plants. So we had caudata sumatra. Like I said, I wouldn't say struggled with it the first year or two, but it never like did exceptionally well for me. And then now I am certainly on the struggle bus with her. That's all. As much as I love showing and talking about, my favorite plants and the plants that are growing really well and doing really well and just like living their best life and making me a proud plant parent, it's also important to at times share some of the plants that aren't thriving and living their best life and that I find difficult. I find them hard to grow. Trying to crack the code. We shall see. And like I said, I've done videos before where it's like plants I will never buy again, and it's plants that are dead or dying and or struggling or what for whatever reason. And I'm like, yeah, I would not buy this again. I just want to get rid of it. I'm over it. I'm done with it. It's been a struggle. It's been a stress. These are mostly like 90%, I would say, plants that I do love and I do have a soft spot in my heart for, and I want them. And I want them to do well. I want to keep them. I don't want to have to get rid of them or watch them wither away or throw them out. So it's yeah, it's kind of painful. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what plants you currently are struggling with, or maybe like the one that you're struggling with the most that's like really disheartening to you, if you don't mind. And I'll see you again soon in my next video. Love you guys. Bye.